place you do not know.
Welcome to our 51st, congratulations, Julia,
Yee-hoo.
our 51st episode of the ongoing drama of VFI Educates 2020. I'm pleased to announce that there will be VFI Educates 2021. Julia has decided, and we agree, to offer these programs through the end of February and possibly after, but at least through the end of February. So this is our 51st episode. What is that? It's 8 episodes a month. So we'll have another 16 episodes plus about 4 or 5 left this month. We're going to hit 100 years by the time we end this thing, I think. And congratulations, Julia. That's the big announcement for today. So I'm now turning it over to Julia and our guest lecturer. And thank you very much for joining us this afternoon in America.
Thank you, Steve. By the way, I see on chat that Marcia Diane wrote that she went there with Sarel in April 2016. It was awesome. Okay, so Yishai, maybe you met Marcia Diane back then. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud and happy to introduce Yishai Fleisher. He will say more about himself, but he is the international spokesman for the Jewish community in Hebron. Hebron is a very special, very intense and difficult place. And I specifically asked Yishai not to speak politics, and he promised me that it is possible. I know it is. So the presentation will be focused on past and present and facts. As always, we are recording. It will be placed on the VFI YouTube channel. You're welcome to ask questions using chat during the presentation. In the end of the presentation, you will have time to ask questions if you like to unmute yourself or keep writing chats, whatever you prefer. And Yishai, it's all yours. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. What an honor it is to be with you guys today. All right. Shalom and welcome, everybody. My name is Yishai Fleisher. I'm the international spokesperson for the Jewish community of Hebron. And that means that I represent a very special town, which is really the oldest Jewish community on the planet, almost continuous presence for the last 3,800 years, with a few breaks in the middle, but generally not. Generally, Jewish people have been there, and that's for a very simple reason, because the tombs of our fathers and mothers, the founders of our peoplehood, are there. And that is something that Jewish people, Christian people, Muslim people don't deny. Everybody agrees. The tombs of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah are in Hebron at a very special place called the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs. We're going to learn all about that. And we're also going to learn about other attractions that we have in Hebron and some of the history. We'll touch it. I want to say hi to a good friend of mine, Joel Block. Joel, shalom. Joel's a good friend of mine for many, many, many years, and he was excited that I'm joining today with this great group of sir. It's great to see you as well, Joel. God bless you, and really, it's really fun to be with this group. And I'll start today's stuff that we're going to be looking at is going to be mostly pictures. So let's start right now with a picture that I think will already show you my connection to this place, to you guys. Right. Okay. Hold on one second. Let me just take off my bookmark views over there. Okay. There you go. And this, I'll move over here. Okay. So does everybody see this picture nicely? Yeah? Nod? Okay. There you go. Great. So here are the Sarel volunteers. And it's really, you'll see amongst the very many groups that come to this place, there's the building in the background. The building in the background is this large building. It's actually the world's best preserved Second Temple era building, and it has it is distinguished, or is there a word distinguishment? I don't think so, but it has the distinguished name or accolade of being the world's oldest structure that has been continuously serving what it was intended to serve from its onset. Meaning to say, it was designed, the building itself, 2,000 years ago, by King Herod to honor the forefathers and mothers, and it is there and been active for the last 2,000 years without stop, and it's never been broken, only added on to. We'll talk more about the Marat Machpelah soon. Let's get to, 1 second, I just want to put this down here. Here's a picture of the land of Israel, only from our perspective it may seem upside down, but from space there's really no up and down. And you see at the bottom right, you see the Kinneret, and you see the Dead Sea kind of shining, kind of reflecting the sun, and you see at the bottom the Red Sea splitting into two, into the Gulf of Aqaba and the Suez, and you see the Mediterranean beautifully with some cloud cover over the land of Israel, and of course the large Sinai. And the land of Israel, I don't remember if you can see my mouse, but the land of Israel and the heart of it is right here in the middle. We'll see more pictures that explain to us what region of the country we're talking about. Oh, this is, I'm sorry, sometimes pictures are a bit out of order. I wanted to reorder them just for you guys today, but we're going to talk about obviously why I, and I hope you will love Hebron. Okay, here's the pictures that I wanted to talk about. This is the land of Israel now right side up, and there is a mountain range in the middle of the land of Israel. And that mountain range is, let's call it, you could call it the holy or historic mountain range that's in the middle of the country. And that mountain range is where basically the majority of the biblical stories took place. It starts all the way in the flat plains of the Negev at the bottom there with Beersheba, and then goes up to the hills of Hebron. Then afterwards, Bethlehem Ephrat, or Beit Lechem Ephrata, where I am right now. Then Jerusalem, big star, the heart of it all. After that, Bethel, Beit El, that's where Jacob had his dream of the ladder. Then Shiloh, where the tabernacle stood for over 400 years, and that's where Samuel got his beginning. And then finally Shechem, or the Christians will say Shechem, or the Arabs will say Nablus. These cities, that's where Joseph is buried. These cities comprise the heart of the land of Israel. I call it the menorah of the land of Israel. That's my term. And you can see, seven candelabras, 7 holy cities in the middle. Let's keep going. Just 1 second. Just moving this here. Okay.
Yishai, could you please highlight your mouse?
How do you do that? Is that a new thing?
You have the annotations.
Yes.
On the upper part, there's like a green bar. So if you put your mouse on it, so it goes down there, and then you have annotations.
It says mouse, and then it should say.
It should say annotate. Annotate. Yeah, maybe there's another version when you see like the green bar and then view options, and then if you click it, so you have to annotate. See if you can do it.
Oh yes, I see annotate. Sure.
All right, good.
But why do we need that exactly?
So people will see what you're pointing, because it's difficult for some to see the mouse.
Okay. Mostly I'm not really pointing at anything.
Okay.
Just the big pictures. Okay, there's just another way that my friend made for me. Oh, here's the picture that I wanted to focus on. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't know, is that the land of Israel basically has a flat region, which is, let's call it the coastal plain or the Tel Aviv region. It's really there on the west. You see Tel Aviv, Jaffa, you see Gaza, you see all the way up to Haifa. We're talking about a flat plain. And then in the middle of the country, where all those colors are, is really a very mountainous region. And those regions today are named, they're called Judea and Samaria. Judea is where the tribe of Judah is to the south of Jerusalem. Samaria is the area where the 10 tribes, the tribes of Israel, were located, and they are to the north of Jerusalem. And I'm not getting political, but if you would look for it in the news, it will be called the West Bank. Okay? So this West Bank also happens to be the heartland of the Jewish story, where really the majority of things took place. And if you look at the bottom here, you see at the bottom of the colorful region, you'll see Hebron and Kiryat Arba together. That's where we're talking about. We're talking about 1 hour south drive from Jerusalem. This region happens to be a very mountainous region, to the point that in the wintertime, you will we will get snow. We will get snow down here. And this picture is great because you learn three things. One is it's a mountainous region. Two, you get snow. And three, there's a special kind of produce that grows here. What is that plant? Who wants to jump in and tell me? Anybody wants to jump in and tell me?
Grapes.
That's right. It's grapes, grapevines, right? And here they are. Now, grapevines are like Jews. They love rocky soil, crazy weather. They're very, how should we say, just like Judeans are very like, they find problems and they just, deal with it. And so they like rocky soil. They like unusual weather. And these grapes love snow and they love frost. And when you get frost, they make great grapes a few months later. And so here we are in the region of Hebron. Now, the man who really connected the whole story of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is Abraham. The first verse in the Bible, in the Torah, that we meet Abraham, it says, leave the land of your birth and come to a land that I will show you. So we meet his name. The first sentence that we meet Abraham is, go to the homeland, go to the Holy Land, or go to the promised land, or the land that I will show you. That's the first verse that we hear about Abraham. We hear about the land of Israel. So he is very connected to the land of Israel, and he's going to be the main player in connecting himself, and especially his beloved wife Sarah, to Hebron. And here we see a kind of old picture from about maybe 100 years ago, and that is the tomb of the forefathers and mothers from the back. And this is what it looks like today. And I especially put this picture in because it's our Chanukiah, getting ready for the holiday of Hanukkah. So just for a second, let's delve, if we can, into a little bit of the story of the Torah about Hebron. You remember that in the chapter 23 of the book of Genesis, we see that Abraham's beloved wife Sarah passes away, and he wants to bury her in a special place. The Kabbalah and the Jewish Midrash, which is the lore, the legend, speaks a lot about this. But the simple point is that he wanted to bury her in Hebron. According to the Kabbalah, he found the tombs of Adam and Eve, and he wanted to bury her in this special place, which was, quote unquote, the entrance to the Garden of Eden. And he negotiates with the Hittites that are living there, and he purchases a plot of land that at the end turns out to be what we call today the tomb of the fathers and mothers. He negotiates for it. They offer it to him for free. He says, no thanks, I want to pay for it full price, and he pays for it. The Hittites ask for 400 silver weight, which is equivalent to about $800,000 today. And he buries his wife Sarah there. When he passes away, his two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, maybe the father of the Arabs, bury their joint father Abraham there, or their shared father Abraham. Then Isaac is going to pass away, and his wife, beloved wife Rivka, they get both buried at this very same spot. And finally, Leah gets buried there, and very finally, Jacob, who is the father of the 12 tribes. Jacob's other name is Israel. He is buried there. Wait a minute. Where is he dying? Let's go back to the pictures. See if we can see a picture here that will kind of help us envision what it looked like. I'll get back to this in a second. Oh, here we go. I'll get back to this in a second. Just 1 second. Oh, here's the father. Let's say, this is part of a video that we have in Hebron. The forefather Jacob is dying, and he's got his children around him. Where is this happening? Where is he dying? It's not in the land of Israel. It's actually in Egypt. He's dying in Egypt. And he asks his children, according to the end of the book of Genesis. Remember, the book of Genesis is the book that we should all know. That's the easiest book of the Bible to know. It's the beginning of it all. It's all the great stories of the forefathers and mothers. So he's dying in Egypt, and he says to his children, bury me in Hebron. I don't want to be buried in Detroit, and I don't want to be buried even in Boca Raton or in LA or anywhere else. I want to be buried in Hebron. Bring me from Egypt to Hebron after I pass away. And indeed they do that. They indeed take him all the way from Egypt and bury him in Hebron. And so with his burial seals this sepulcher of the founders of our peoplehood. So friends, we all know about Jerusalem. Jerusalem is where you meet God. Jerusalem is where 2 temples stood, where King David reigned. But the founders of the peoplehood, something that connects all of us. And really, when I say all of us, I mean all Jews are children of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah, and of course Rachel. We're part of the 12 tribes, but most of our non-Jewish friends will also say that we're the children of Abraham. We're also part of the Jewish story. That's why we love Israel. And so people feel that they're part of at least the Abrahamic faiths. And our Ishmaelite cousins, our Arab cousins, will say that they're a direct line from Ishmael. So this place is important to all of those faiths. Oops, 1 second. I think I did not press the button that I wanted to press, but that's actually okay. Something very special about this place, the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers, is that it's laid out 2 by 2. It's laid out. These are tombs that are 3,800 years ago, and a building that's 2,000 years old on top of it. Now, let's say you want to go to. I wish I had a picture here of Mount Rushmore. I'm going to stick in a picture of Mount Rushmore next time. If you go to Mount Rushmore, what do you see there? You see 4 male presidents, and God bless them. But where'd the mamas? There ain't no mamas on Mount Rushmore. But the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers in Hebron is all about the mamas and the papas together. And so there are 6 tombs. They are equidistant from one another, represented in an equidistant fashion, with great respect to the mothers and the fathers. And so therefore, the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers is indeed an ode to the family, the Jewish family, the basic building block of the Jewish people, and the founders. And maybe, do you remember what the slogan for Virginia is? Does anybody remember the slogan for Virginia? Virginia is for lovers, right? Am I right? Virginia is for lovers. So I would like to say Hebron is for lovers. Look at them, 2 by 2. They are placed inside the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers. That's something very special that you probably don't have anywhere else. An ancient recognition of the fathers and mothers together. Now, the building itself has gone through a few different changes, but never destroyed, only added on to. The top right, the drawing that Minister Ophir Kunis is looking at is the Crusader version. Then to the left a little bit is the Mamluk version, and then to the bottom right is the version that we know today. It's gone through additions throughout history, but never has it been destroyed. And when you come into the building, you will meet this mezuzah, and the mezuzah says in Hebrew, Shar Gan Eden, entrance to the Garden of Eden, which I was telling you before is one of the Kabbalistic interpretations of why this place was important, because it was the entrance to the Garden of Eden. When you're inside, you're going to see these beautiful plaques adorning these type of cenotaphs. Cenotaphs are markers of the tombs. Now, the tombs are underneath the building, but the building on top has these big marble markers, and these marble markers represent the tombs below. Here's a picture of the marker of Sarah. Across from her is Abraham. This is a picture of women praying in the hall, the Isaac Hall, which throughout most of the year is actually on the Muslim side. One of the things I didn't tell you is that today the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers is divided between a Jewish and Muslim side. It's divided 60-40, about 60% for Muslims. 10 days a year, though, they open it up for 10 non-sequential days a year. They open it up for Jewish prayer in the whole building, and the Muslims are not in the building for those 10 days. And similarly, and matching it, there are 10 days where Jewish people are not allowed in, and it's only Muslim. This is one of the days where Jewish people are allowed into the Isaac and Rebekah Hall, which is usually under Islamic control. And here they are praying next to the tomb of Isaac. When we saw this picture, here's my kid likes to play with the graphics, so he added some funky colors to the tomb monument of the patriarch Jacob. Just by the way, if any of you read Hebrew and you don't understand why it says Tzion, Yaakov Avinu, it's not Tzion, it's Tziyun. Tziyun means marker. Okay, so it's not Tzion or the name Tzion. All right, so let me just first thing stop right here for a second and ask if there's any questions about the building itself that I can ask you. And you could jump in if you want to break in and unmute yourself. You certainly can do that. Is there any questions about the building itself or where Hebron is and the stuff we talked about?
Is there access to the tombs under?
Oh, great question. The answer is no. The answer is no. And there was access once upon a time, and we have been down there in 1968 and 1981. But the Islamic control of the site, the partial Islamic control of the site, they are very sensitive about people going down there. And there's a lot of taboo and a lot of fear about going down there. There's a lot of stories of people going down there and dying. And that is because the holiness, the energy is too much to bear, according to legend. But also there's another reason, maybe a little bit more earthly, and that is that every time we go down there, we unearth all kinds of signs that say that really this thing is way, way before Islam came into our part of the Middle East, which is about the year 637. But this thing, this building and parts of the building, even underneath the catacombs, predated by thousands of years. And so they don't always feel, the Islamic Waqf doesn't always feel comfortable in us going down there. But in any case, when we have been down there, we have found remnants from the first temple, which is hundreds of years before this building came around. There are catacombs below, but nobody has been able to get to the actual tombs themselves. Now, the Jewish lore basically does not see the forefathers and mothers as dead. We see them as kind of sleeping and ready to be reawoken. They're called Yoshnei Hebron, slumberers of Hebron, and not the dead of Hebron. There's many, many different kinds of stories about them kind of being awakened at some point, or being told, or still praying for the Jewish people, praying for their children. And so the answer is no. But if you'd like to see more about that, I made a movie about that on YouTube, which is called Secrets of the Machpelah. Secrets of the Machpelah. Machpelah is the Hebrew name of it. It's a wonderful film, I think, about 15 minutes long. You'll enjoy it. And I go through all of Hebron with the famous spokesman, Noam Arnon. So check that out. And it's great for grandkids and kids and grandkids, Secrets of the Machpelah. Any other questions?
Well, I have a sort of a half question, half a statement. As far as I know, we have no historical textual evidences to this building being built by King Herod the Great. This is what we suppose because it looks like it. It resembles, well, let's say the Western Wall and quite a few other structures, which are definitely belong to King Herod, but it is not recorded by any historian, and therefore we don't really know that. It's an assumption.
That is not the information that I know at all, and rather it is spelled out, and I've seen it myself in the book of Josephus. He writes about it. He writes about the building in Hebron. He describes the tombs inside, the 6 tombs, and we have it on really travelers for the last 2,000 years, all the way from Josephus all the way to all the various travelers, including the Rambam, who was the Maimonides, who was there in 1165, and back. The thing is, we have basically an unbroken tradition. And all the other peoples that have ever been there, if it's the Crusaders or the Muslims, nobody denies that tradition. It just means that, remember, Hebron has always been habitated. It never became a place where people didn't live, like many other places in the land of Israel. Let's say Bethel, which is an ancient place, but for thousands of years, nobody lived there at all. Hebron, there was always human habitation, various peoples, and nobody denies the tradition that this is the tombs of the fathers and mothers. So really, I would say it's one of the places that we know best. It's certainly the place, both from historical writings, but also from an unbroken tradition. And of course, the building itself is a monumental undertaking. We're talking about some stones that are 400 tons. We're talking about a tremendous human undertaking. This is not a small project. It's a giant project. And so that's one way to know, how important this place was. Anything else, friends?
Yeah. So why was it eventually divided between Jews and Muslims, and why do the Muslims have more of a piece of it than the Jews?
So, Hebron has seen its fair share of tensions between Jews and Arabs throughout history, including the 1929 riot, which ended up killing 67 Jews and basically caused the destruction of the Jewish community. The British were in charge, and suddenly a riot ran through the town, and it destroyed the Jewish community. A large portion got killed or maimed, and the British kicked them out. And so there's some history of violence from that side. But in the year 1994, one of the Jewish residents of Hebron, of Kiryat Arba, actually, Dr. Baruch Goldstein, who treated Arabs and Jews previous to that equally and was known as a great doctor, went into the tomb of the fathers and mothers in 1994 on Purim, and shot 29 Muslim worshippers who were not combatants or anything like that. And that was a horrific crime. And after that, the tomb and really a lot of Hebron became divided as like let's say Northern Ireland type of thing, in order to keep people living together, but without friction, more apart. So that was in the wake of that event. It was deemed dangerous to keep people too much together. And so there was an effort to try to separate them out, and that's exactly what happened. And sorry about that. 1 second. I thought I blocked this, but okay. Here, I'm turning my ringer off. In any case, that's what divided it. Today, the Muslims control a chunk of the building, which is called the Isaac and Rebecca Hall, which is the larger hall. It was a church that became a mosque, that became a church, that became a mosque. And they control this very, very beautiful, very large, very tall, very ornate part of the building. We control a smaller part of the building most of the year. But again, 10 days a year, we get full control of the building. 10 days a year, they get full control of the building. Now, that might not be beautiful, and I might not like that, and they may not like that, but it is equitable. And so that's the equitable solution that people have achieved, and that's the situation today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know somebody who's married there.
That's right. I myself got married inside the tomb of the fathers and mothers in the year 2002, but on the Jewish side, and it was a great merit to do that. Actually, that's good, Joel, because that brings me to the second part. Any other specific questions, friends? For now,
I have one question.
Go ahead.
I would like to thank you for your excellent presentation. I have a two-part questions. One is how the area is protected, and second, if you have any videos online that we can view.
Yeah, great question. Can I just ask? Did I detect a Persian accent? I just want to know, is that correct or not?
No.
Which accent did I detect, or did not detect? Which is that?
Well, originally is we left Egypt after building.
Oh, Egypt. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, very good. I have a lot of Egyptian friends and Syrian friends. You left. Which year did you leave? In the 50s?
In the 60s.
Oh wow.
62.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So you must have some great stories. I have a lot of friends, especially my Brooklyn Syrian friends. They're married to Egyptians. You know about this. The Syrian folks marry, the Chalabi folks and the Egyptian folks, and that's it. So I've heard a lot of the stories of the things that went on in Egypt. The reason I asked you about Persian, which I mistook, was that I find that you will be amazed that even I find some Persian Jews living in Iran today, visiting the tomb of the fathers and mothers. They go through Turkey and then fly from Turkey, from Istanbul to Israel just to get there. And one of the places that they love most is the tomb of the fathers and mothers. And basically everybody loves the tombs of the fathers and mothers, but it's Sephardic Jews, Middle Eastern Jews are very connected to this place. And it's really, I don't know how to explain it. It's just very, very deeply important to them. With regarding to, and it's for everybody, but specifically I find that Middle Eastern Jews feel very passionate about the place. With regarding to videos, there's quite a few that I've made myself, and there's others. You could look up now. If you go to YouTube, you may also find a lot of actually, if you type in the word Hebron into YouTube, you are likely going to come up to a BBC documentary that I helped create, and it's really pretty fair. So that's a lot of fun. But if you want to see more of like a real tour of it, I mentioned this before, I say it again, check out Secrets of the Machpelah. Secrets of the Machpela. Secrets of the Machpelah, a wonderful film that we created. And the Bezrat Hashem, I invite you to come and see it for yourself also. Video is good, but after Corona, that's it. Okay, no excuses. We're waiting for you here in Eretz Israel. That's right.
So much.
God bless you.
How many Jews live in Hebron today?
Good question. Very good question. And we're going to get to that in a minute, but I'll just answer your question. We have about 1,000 Jews that live in Hebron, about 9,000 Jews that live in our sister city, Kiryat Arba. That's 10,000 Jews. And there's about 200,000 Arabs that live in the greater city of Hebron. So that is one of the reasons why Hebron is also a political, a place of political tension. We're not going to talk too much politics here today, but you could understand that I'll just say it like this. Hebron is a kind of bone in the throat sometimes for the Israeli government, because you can't swallow it because there's 200,000 Arabs there, and you can't spit it out because it has the tomb of the fathers and mothers. And for me, that's totally fine, because I like to exist in a place of tension and excitement. And
do you live in Hebron?
I am still waiting for a spot in Hebron or back on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, where I came from. Today I live in beautiful Efrat, which is right next to Bethlehem, right between Jerusalem and Hebron is this nestled Judean community of Efrat. And so it's 20 minutes to Hebron, 20 minutes to Jerusalem. It's a great place to live in the middle, especially for the stuff I do in life. All right, let's get back to our pictures. We do a lot to bring people in to the tomb of the fathers and mothers because it's politically tense, because it has a security reputation of being somewhat tense. We do a lot to try to bring people in and help them connect with the tomb of the fathers and mothers and really make it fun and touristic and lovely. And so here's a picture of one of the concerts that we put on. So here's the concert, and then in the background you see there's the tomb of the fathers and mothers lit up in a different way. Okay, these are new Olim immigrants that Olim from Nefesh B'Nefesh that I brought myself on tour, and as you can see, they're doing all right. They're not sad. We do lots of concerts and events to bring people in to the community, so that it'll, as I said before, so it'll be fun. We even do something so cool. Sometimes we can paint with video. It's called video mapping. We can paint the tomb of the fathers and mothers, and there's, like, you see cool stuff being projected onto it. And there are special days, including days where these are all French folks. These are French folks. They have this day that just the French folks show up. And they just, like, thousands of them. We should do the same thing for Americans. We should do the same thing for Russians, but we haven't done it yet. But we have it for French people. And so, Viva la Hebron. Okay. Oh, here's some more of that video mapping. This is of our famous artist in our town, whose name is Baruch Nachshon. There's part of his paintings. All right. Fun colors. And we have something that happens very special. This is what I wanted to get to, which is that people come. Why would somebody come to the tomb of the fathers and mothers? What are you going to do at the tomb of the fathers and mothers? Well, you're going to celebrate life cycle events or things that connect to the forefathers and mothers. Here are, this is a school from Sderot. They came with their rabbis and their teachers, and you see these teachers on the left and the right there, and they came to, I don't remember exactly what they came for, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Here, these kids right here, these happens to be kids from my town, from Efrat. They came, these are first graders that came to Hebron, to the tomb of the fathers and mothers, in order to receive their book of Genesis. They're finishing the book of Genesis, the study of it. So where else are you going to receive it other than coming right to Hebron, to the tombs of the fathers and mothers, and doing the event, doing that receiving of the book of Genesis, of the book of Bereshit, right there. This is such a moving picture. Oh, these are the French folks as well. Look at them. They are proud. Oh, these are more of the women. See, I got a little bit out of order. I was rushing to make a new order for you. Here's the picture I wanted you to see. Here are another school that brought their daughters for the same thing to receive the book of Genesis. And these are fathers blessing their daughters underneath a prayer shawl, a talit. Let's call it even like a kind of chuppah. They got it over their heads, and the fathers are giving the daughters a blessing right at the foot of the tomb of the fathers and mothers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a doctored photo. I took this photo, and I deserve like the Pulitzer Prize for this photo. This is like a Pulitzer Prize winning photo, but I have not received that accolade as yet. But I think it's amazing. What I love about this photo is the prayer shawl, the tarp, like separates between those fathers and mothers and these fathers and the future mothers. Great photo. I love it. Okay. Another thing that happens in Hebron a lot is soldiers. I think my Egyptian friends, my former Egyptian friends, folks that came from Egypt and are now my new friends, they asked about how do we protect the place? Well, Hebron, due to its numbers and its location and the political tensions around it, in which really it's a Jewish community that exists within the Palestinian Authority. It's the only Jewish town that exists within the confines of the Palestinian Authority. It is militarized. And so we've got a lot of military. And here, these guys are actually not protecting us. They're just doing an event. They're doing an event receiving their, rifles or Bibles or one of the things that they do. And they're doing it at the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers, a place that's important to celebrate. Speaking, as I said before, of those days, I showed you pictures of women praying at the tomb of Isaac. This is one of those 10 days that the whole tomb is open, and therefore Jews from all over the country flock to Hebron, flock to the tombs of fathers and mothers. And here you see how big and beautiful the Muslim side is. That's the Isaac and Rebecca Hall. You see how big it is. And there, in the front of the picture, not the back picture, the front of the picture, you can see musical instruments. It is the musical Hallel, which is sung on the holidays. These are, as I said before, the Middle Eastern Jews praying at the special Slichot. We have amazing, something that you have a little bit less in America, but here in Israel it's a very big thing, which is the month of Elul, and also the few days before the high holidays, people say these forgiveness prayers in the middle of the night, and it's a huge phenomenon. People coming from all over, and these are a different kind of Jew, ultra-Orthodox Jews. These guys are Ashkenazi, but they show up on their special days, and they're also here in the Isaac and Rebecca Hall. This is my friend Rabbi Shlomo Katz on which holiday? Sukkot, as you can see by the fronds. Okay, not everybody that visits Hebron is Jewish. These are my friends from China. They came before the coronavirus, a long time before the coronavirus. And I said to them, how are you guys doing? They're like, great. I'm like, how many of you are there? They said, I said to them, what are you? They're like, we're Christian Chinese. I'm like, great. I'm like, how many of you are there? He's like, oh, not a lot, 25 million. All right. So we are looking forward for them to come to us when this period is over. And this is a very important thing. Isn't this an awesome picture? Guys, isn't this a great picture? Okay, this is an important picture too, because this picture represents something very special. This doesn't happen every day. It happens once a year on a Sabbath called Parshat Chayei Sarah, the Shabbat of Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. That's pretty much a few weeks after Rosh Hashanah. There's a Sabbath that we read about the purchase, Abraham's purchase of the tomb of the fathers and mothers, the burial of Sarah, and then subsequently the burial of of Abraham. And on that Sabbath, when we read from the Torah scroll about that purchase, we have about 25,000 people that come for that Sabbath, including about 1/10 of the Israeli Knesset. They all come and show up and stay with us for Sabbath. So it's like Woodstock meets the Bible. Okay, that's what happens. And it is a wild scene. What's that?
I was there for the whole weekend. It was amazing.
Who's speaking?
Alan Kahn from Lincolnwood, Illinois.
All right, Alan, thank you so much.
Slumberers of Hebron.
Alan, thank you so much. God bless you, Alan, and we look forward to having you back this year. Corona shut us down.
I was there last year also.
Very good, Alan, and we look forward to having you again. And as Alan just said, like when you're there for Shabbat Chayei Sarah, it is a super Shabbat. I mean, there's nothing in the world, or there are a few things in the world, like standing in front of the tomb of the fathers and mothers, reading from the ancient Torah scroll, the ancient words that talk about Abraham's purchase, and you being a Jewish person or a lover of Israel, right there, reading from that scroll in the place, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing feeling, and you could see just the sheer energy. And wait, why don't you ask me, how did you take this photo? You told me this is Friday night. You're right. The Army, the security apparatus took this photo and sent it to us afterwards. Okay, modern. How did Jews get back to Hebron? 1929, I'm keeping this short, 1929 Jews were kicked out of Hebron. And how were they kicked out of Hebron? Because there was this awful riot that really destroyed Jewish presence in Hebron. And the British kicked us out, and then all of our property was basically summarily taken away. And that was 1929. Then the Jordanians took over the land in the year 1948. Israel declared independence, and we won the War of Independence that was foisted upon us. But we lost the heartland of Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank, and Jerusalem. And we were barred from even going to Hebron. And that was the state of affairs. Basically, from 1929, we lost Jewish presence in Hebron. 1948, we lost all of Judea and Samaria and were barred from Hebron. But in 1967, we actually, in my perspective, liberated the heartland and began to come back soon afterwards to Hebron. So here's the famous Beit Hadassah building, which is one of the first Hadassah hospitals in the land of Israel, and was in Hebron before 1929. It was started in the late 1800s, and it became a Hadassah, a women's organization hospital. It served Arabs and Jews alike, but Jews lost control of that property in 1929. But in 1979, 50 years later, a group of women and children from Kiryat Arba, Jewish women and children, snuck into the building, which they understood as theirs. And the government didn't dare kick out women and children from this old Jewish property. And so began Jewish presence in Hebron again. Here's a picture of these women and children, the women here who were just living in squalor and tough conditions for, I think, about 9 months until actually another terrorist act took place. And then the Israeli government recognized Jewish rights in Hebron again. And here is Beit Hadassah today. It's got many families that live there today and a museum below. Here are some of the Jews that lived in Hebron before 1929. And this is what happened in part in 1929. I have many horrific and gruesome pictures. I will not be showing them to you today. But this is what happened to the books and the papers. You can imagine what happened to the people. And basically every kind of awful crime that you can imagine, violent crime that you could imagine, is what took place and worse. Here is the Avraham Avinu Synagogue, which was one of the old, it's a 500-year-old synagogue. And this was when it was just ransacked. Later, it was totally destroyed. 1 second. Oops. Wait, where's the picture of it totally destroyed? Hold on. 1 second. I have a picture of it. I wanted to show you a picture of it being in just horrible shape. All right, if we bump into it, the point is that it was completely and utterly destroyed, and its cupola, its top here was wrecked already in the 50s and 60s, and it was totally covered over with garbage, and you didn't know that it even existed any longer. It was just destroyed. But in 1979, 1980, we started finding its remnants and rebuilding it from old pictures, just the way it was for the last 400 years. Boy, that's a good-looking guy. That's myself on top of the synagogue there. And this is in our Avraham Avinu neighborhood. This is my good buddy, Alex Trayman. It's my good buddy, Alex, and my other buddies. My good buddy, Alex, was doing his son's Mordechai's bar mitzvah in the synagogue that was rebuilt. It was originally built in around 1540, destroyed in 1929, rebuilt in 1979, 1980. And here's my good friend Alex doing a bar mitzvah for his son. This synagogue also carries some very ancient scrolls from about 300 years ago. Not like super ancient, but pretty ancient. They're coming from Baghdad. They're on deer skin. They're not on what we use today, which is cowhide, but on deer skin. It's really cool. And it's a beautiful synagogue. This is part of the Avraham Avinu neighborhood. And I love this picture because here's a children's kindergarten playground, but on top is like a military position where there's a lot of times soldiers standing up there. Hebron is a militarized zone. Yes, it's a little bit tricky of a situation, but Zionism still has its battlefronts, and Hebron is definitely a battlefront. This is a different neighborhood called Tel Rumeda or Admot Yishai. It's at the very top of the hill. The tomb of the fathers and mothers is in a valley, but at the top of the hill is where the original Hebron was. The original Hebron. We're talking 3,000 years ago and 2,000 years ago. This is back to the Avraham Avinu neighborhood, which we've built up, I think, rather nicely. This is the yeshiva. We have a big yeshiva which has about 400 students every year, and they are this is a property. You see the part below is an old part of an old building, and this was also property that was lost to us in 1929, Jewish property. We recouped it and built a yeshiva on top of it. Well, maybe I'll just go back to the picture a second ago here. This is another playground, but as you can see, the street level is actually up and to the right. But in order to get the kids away from the street so that they won't be attacked in any way, we put the playground below. We also have a lot of archaeology in Hebron, as you could probably imagine. As I said to you, the oldest continuous Jewish community has archaeology. This is a building that is a Crusader era building, but underneath it is the fabled tomb of Yishai. That's my name also, Yishai, Jesse, and Ruth, the biblical Ruth. Yishai, the father of David, Ruth, the great-grandmother of King David. And so that exists in Hebron as well, amongst other very impressive names of people in Jewish history that are buried there. You know what? Oops, let me go back one picture. This is one of the places that we've developed. We created these drawings for people to kind of be able to remember the stories of the Bible. And here is Abraham buying the tomb of the deed to the tomb of the fathers and mothers from Ephron the Hittite for 400 silver weight. So there's a picture that gives you that feeling. Let's keep going. Oh, archaeology. So archaeology, we have unearthed some really astounding archaeological findings, including this giant mikvah ritual bath that's at the top of the Hebron Hill. And this proved to archaeologists that Jews lived in Hebron in the Second Temple period. Some people doubted that, and were also very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very industrious. And this is next to an industrial zone that made wine, olive oil, and also had a kiln for producing pottery. But they had to do it in ritual purity. So they needed a mikvah. It is very, very, very large. It can fit like 20 people at a time. One of the most important things that we found, and we found about 5 of them, are seals. Seals from the Hezekiah period, which was about 1900 years ago. This is from the Davidic line in Jerusalem. We found seals both in Jerusalem and in Hebron. But we found 5 of them in Hebron that say on a jar handle, "To the king Hebron," belonging to the king in Hebron, as in this is the storehouse of the king in Hebron, or this is the tax collection of the king in Hebron. It's written in Hebrew, albeit in the old alphabet, which is not the alphabet that we use today. Okay, so in the old alphabet script, we found these seals, 5 of them in Hebron. This was proof positive. Really, you cannot make that stuff up. Jews lived here, and this was an important Judean city. All right, as I was saying before, and I started, but then I have the pictures, more of them now. We've got a lot of soldiers. Here's a great picture of mine, which I think, again, I deserve the Pulitzer for, which is, or at least some kind of Jewish prize for a great picture taking. I happen to also be fond of women, and so I took I think a great picture of a lady soldier. You see the Star of David next to her head, and she is sitting on a big chair. What is this oversized chair? It is the seat of Eliyahu during a Brit circumcision ceremony. Folks sit. We actually put the baby on Elijah's lap, so to speak, when he sits there invisibly. But she's sitting there taking a break. Love this photo. All right, took this photo also. Here are the Border Patrol folks. They're actually just on tour, but they stopped for me and took a shot. I wanted to, I didn't want to be overly religious, but I wanted to remind you about the Messiah. And, the Messiah is supposed to come on a white donkey. Here's an Israeli army soldier just having some fun with the kids. And you see the kid on the right. He's concerned that I'm going to get him in trouble for having this soldier ride his donkey or something. But I wasn't getting anybody in trouble, but I just thought it was very humorous to see this soldier on a white donkey. All right, shofar blowing during the high holiday season. This is an American show host. Pete Hegseth came in and toured with me. He loves soldiers. He's a former soldier. Now we also have in Hebron, we got Chabad. Chabad. Now everybody loves Chabad, right? And now Chabad, if you want them to talk about the land of Israel, if you want to hear their so-called Zionism, if you want to get the Zionism out of them, just talk Hebron with them. They go crazy. They love Hebron. They've been there since the early 1800s. They have a deep and rich history in Hebron. And today, there's a Hebron Chabad rabbi. His name is Rabbi Danny. As you can see, he does what Chabad does best, bringing us Jews closer to Judaism. This was the minister of justice at the time, Ayelet Shaked. The reason I put this picture in is because she is not necessarily, she's traditional, but not maybe fully observant. But she stood in front of the tomb of the fathers and mothers, and I'll never forget how she said, I, as Justice Minister of the State of Israel, declare that we have every legal right to this area, to Hebron and the tomb of the fathers and mothers, because Abraham, our forefather, made a good purchase, which is a legally binding purchase written in the Torah 3,800 years ago. All right, this is an American Jew and Knesset member and former minister, Michael Oren, a great historian and a friend. And this was recently, Prime Minister Netanyahu was in town, and he just begged me to take a selfie with him. So I obliged him, as you could see. Actually, I think I asked him, but okay, we're not, let's not split hairs here. All right, the Prime Minister is involved in the return of the Jewish people to Hebron. Here he is with his wife at the tomb of the fathers and mothers outside. What I didn't tell you before, and maybe I should have, is there's an area right outside of the tomb of the fathers and mothers, an area called the seventh step. The seventh step is where Jews prayed for 700 years. 700 years, Jews were not allowed inside the building from the Mamluk Muslim period on. The Mamluks decided that we are not the true people of this place, and we are second-class status. We were Dehimi, second-class status, and kicked out of the building. And so Jews cleaved to this place in a spot called the seventh step because there was a staircase there, and we were only allowed up to the seventh step. Here's Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah at the seventh step. All right, if you like him, Ben Shapiro came last Sukkot and prayed with us there. He asked me to take a selfie with him, and I let him. Here's Nir Barkat, former mayor of Jerusalem, and today a Knesset member of the Likud. I'm just showing you some pictures of how many important people come here. Here's my good friend Avraham Neguse, the Ethiopian representative, one of the Ethiopian representatives today in the Likud. There are others now, thank God. And this is my good friend Josh Reinstein, actually Josh Reinstein in the middle, and to the right, Mayor of Efrat Oded Revivi, bringing MKs, Christian MKs, that are pro-European Christian MKs that are part of the Israel Christian Allies caucuses around the world that are pro-Israel, and he is at the tomb of the fathers and mothers. All right, this is a picture I just took to show you that Hebron is not just the tomb of the fathers and mothers. It's also got these like ancient places, ancient olive trees, and spots that are you could just feel like you're really connecting with the land of the Bible. So the towards the end now, we're coming closer, and you can start preparing your questions. I just want you to know that I've talked about the tensions between Arabs and Jews a little bit. But what I didn't tell you yet is that we also have fabulous relations with some people, some Arabs in the great city of Hebron, including the Jabri clan. If you see right in the middle there, there's my friend, Sheikh Ashraf Jabri. And there I am. Do you see me third from the right? At least on my screen, third from the right, there I am. And I got my hands. One hand is somebody, I don't have, one hand is somebody else's hand, and one hand is mine on his shoulder. Do you see this kind of gentleman standing in front of me? His name is Khaldun. And Khaldun Husseini is the great-grandson of Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was the Arab who was also a Nazi sympathizer, who in 1929 was behind those riots that I told you about, and then in the 40s became a full-fledged Nazi and really killed a lot of Jews, about 60,000 in the Bosnian effort, and he recruited the Bosnian SS. So here I am with my hands on the shoulder of his great-grandson, who today is making peace with Israel. This is before the Abraham Accords. We were already in Hebron breaking bread. This is actually at an iftar dinner, a dinner at the end of one of the Ramadan nights at our friend Sheikh Ashraf Jabri. And you could guess that Sheikh Ashraf, you might not be able to guess, that he actually catered the iftar meal galat kosher so that we could participate in it. It was a beautiful and important event, a moving event. Here's Arab kids walking Hebron. Look at them waving at the Israeli soldier there. So you'll hear a lot of, in the news, you'll hear a lot of bad reports, but the truth is there's a lot of decency, a lot of positive relationships. Okay, this just says Hebron. Where else? I wanted to show you another picture. Hold on one second. Oh, here we go. When you drive, here we go. This is what I want to show you. When you drive in the land of Israel, I'm coming back from the beach. My hair is still wet. We're coming back from the beach, and on Route 35, which is a route that's called Cross Judea, there are signs for the tomb of the fathers and mothers. We used to call it patriarchs. I call it the fathers and mothers. So it's on the road. Here I am with one of my favorite biblical characters, Rebecca. And this picture is an amazing story that I wanted to continue with what I was telling you about Arab-Jewish relations. About a year and a few months ago, my daughter had her bat mitzvah, Mazel Tov, and we wanted to do the bat mitzvah in Hebron. She toured her friends at the tomb of the fathers and mothers, and then afterwards, we really wanted fireworks. My mom wanted fireworks. And to make a long story short, I turned to all the Jews, and it was going to be either very costly or the army wouldn't agree to it. And finally, I came up with a pretty cool idea, which is, let me turn to my Arab friends and see if they could fire off fireworks for me. They fire off fireworks all the time. So I turned to Sheikh Ashraf Jabri and I said, listen, Sheikh, I got my daughter's bat mitzvah at the Ibrahimi Mosque, the tomb of the fathers and mothers. Can you fire off fireworks for me? And at first they were totally dumbfounded because nobody had ever made that request. But finally, they were excited about it. And here's a picture of actually my son and my nephew watching some of the fireworks at my daughter's bat mitzvah. Here's me with a bright idea, as you can see. See that? There's a bright idea. Look at that. Actually, let's watch a little video. I don't know if it'll work, but if it'll work, we'll just watch a little bit just to get you into the atmosphere. Aha! That's right. Boom. Okay, isn't that fun? That's at my daughter's bat mitzvah, and that's something very special. As I said, I'm coming to the end now. As I said to you before, we've got life cycle events that happen there. As I said, I got married there. What is the most popular life cycle event of them all? Brit Milah, circumcision, which is also known as the covenant of Abraham. So people come to the tomb of Abraham to do the covenant of Abraham. But here's an awesome bride taking her pictures, taking them very seriously at the tomb of the fathers and mothers. Here it is on a rainy day last year, just about this time. And all kinds of folks show up, including these bikers. This is during Corona period, and here come the Israeli bikers, and they are, you know what bikers are. They're all a bunch of accountants and lawyers anyway, but they like to get dressed up and get the Harley thing going. But they come in and have some fun with us in Hebron. Here they are. Look at that. Look at that. We got you see what Zionism is? We have our own Harley bikers. It's awesome. Right now we're in a big fight to put up an elevator at the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers, because the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers does not have handicapped access today at all. We actually do this crazy thing. We get about 20 soldiers, and or I don't know, 6 to 10 soldiers probably, just pick up people in wheelchairs and bring them all the way up the stairs. That is not respectful. We've been fighting very hard, and there's been a lot of political forces that wanted to stop us from putting up an elevator, but hopefully that'll be happening soon. This is a picture that I recently took of grapes. Remember the beginning I told you, Judea is the land of grapes. And here we have beautiful grapes right next to the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers. But we also have, before Rosh Hashanah, we have pomegranates. And here's my final photo for today, which is this beautiful couple who just came the other day. Really, this picture was taken like last week. Of this crazy couple. They're wild, they're beautiful, they're different, they're cool. They're not exactly, what you usually see at the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers, but they are Israelis, they are Jews, they are proud, and they came in to the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers to take their wedding photographs. They were taking photographs for hours. I myself have like 20 pictures. But in any case, here they are. And I think that this picture, I love it so much because it represents what we want to say to people, which is, this is your heritage. These are your forefathers and mothers. This is not just for religious people. This is for our nation. This is the founder of our nation. Abraham is buried here. Isaac is buried here, but so is Jacob, who's the first Israel. And therefore, this place is really important to the state of Israel and the people of Israel all over the world, and lovers of Israel as well. So at fantastic timing, we have about 10, 15 minutes left to answer your questions. So why don't you fire off some stuff that you want to hear about the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers?
Okay. Is it true that the head of Esav is buried there, or there was a story like that?
Sure. Let's get to that right now. I'll tell you. 1 second. Are we on screen share or not on screen share? What do you see right now? You see me?
I see you, but you can't see me purposely.
That's okay. That's okay. So wait, what's your name, though? I didn't catch your name.
Joan Usdan.
Joan. Yeah. So what is Joan referring to? Joan is referring to a story that we have in many Jewish sources that talks about that when Jacob was being buried at the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers, remember I told you he was being brought from Egypt, then somebody was blocking the burial procession, and that is his brother Esav, his twin brother, Esau or Esav. And the story goes that Esau said, wait a minute, let's call him Esav, that Esav said, wait a minute, this is actually my spot. And they said, no, you sold that spot. When you sold the birthright, you also sold that spot, or you also sold it separately. You sold that spot to Jacob. And he said, no, you have to prove it to me. And they said, well, we have a document. He said, well, produce it. They said, it's in Egypt. He said, go get it. I have all the time in the world. In the meantime, one of Jacob's grandsons was a guy by the name of Chushim. Chushim, that was his name. He was the son of Dan or Don, and he was hard of hearing. And he asked people, like, what's going on here? And they said, Uncle Esav is blocking the procession. And he took out a sword and chopped Esav's head right off. And Esav's head, according to the lore, rolled into the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers, was embraced by his father, Yitzchak, who loved him. And it says about Esav that he was very good at keeping the honoring of the fathers and mothers. His head was embraced by Yitzchak, and his body was carried away, but Esav's head is buried at the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers. That's not the only head. Right next door, Next to the tomb of the fathers and mothers is the tomb of Avner ben Ner, the general of King Saul, who was killed by the general of King David, and the head of Mephibosheth, the son of a son of Saul. One of the other sons of Saul was killed by David's supporters, and he was disappointed in that, but his head was buried with the tomb of Avner ben Ner. So yeah, it's checkered history, and we have there the forefathers and mothers, the head of Esav, Avner ben Ner, the head of Mephibosheth, and now I'll tell you a secret, which most people don't always, have an easy time believing, but according to some Kabbalah, some mystical lore,
Adam and Eve.
What's Adam and Eve? That's right. Is that who's that? Alan? What's that? You're muted.
Alan.
That's right, Alan. So yes, Adam and Eve are buried there. That is, we talked about that. But according to some more obscure, let's call it more hidden, Kabbalah, mystical lore, the angels, after Moses was buried on Har Nevo, the angels brought Moses and his wife Tzipporah to be buried there. Most people don't agree to that, but some people do. And on the day of passing of Moses, which is the 7th of Adar, there is groups of Jews who come and pray at the tomb of the fathers and mothers.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question. Hello.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much. What a fascinating presentation. I would like to know if you have any history or understanding of why was the building actually constructed in the first place on top of tombs so that they are not really accessible?
Okay, so you've probably been to an American cemetery. An American cemetery, over the body is usually just grass, and then there's like a headstone where the head should be, right? And if you want to have like an emotional moment, you kind of lean your head on the headstone. But here in Israel, if you've been to a cemetery in Israel, we actually construct these kind of boxes on top of where the body is, and then lay a slab down. And if you want to have an emotional moment, you lean on the slab, and then this construction. And it's a large construction on top of a grave. This building was created as a monumental visitors site, pilgrimage site to honor the fathers and mothers. Think of it as the Taj Mahal. It's a Taj Mahal. The only difference is the Taj Mahal is a beautiful, gorgeous building, but it was constructed because that man was the husband was very wealthy and was able to do it, but nobody really remembers the names. I mean, they remember over there, but history is not important so much for history who's really buried there. The tombs of the fathers and mothers were already thousands of years ago very, very important to Jews, Christians, and later Muslims. And in Herod's time, he wanted to beautify, as we all know, the temple, and he wanted to beautify this other central site for the Jewish people, which is the tombs of the fathers and mothers. Now, access to the tombs themselves, that's not really that important, because you're not really you're really not going to see the bodies or anything like that. Instead, they put this big construction on top, a Taj Mahal, if you will, and it was meant to be a visitation site for thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people to come at any given time and to honor and celebrate the tombs of the forefathers and mothers. It's a monumental construction and was only topped by the temple in Jerusalem. In Judaism today, and basically forever, we say that the tomb of the fathers and mothers is the second holiest site. I don't always like that description, just because, which one is first and second, your brain or your heart? Which one are you willing to give up? First and second is there's no real way to you need your heart and you need your brain. You need Jerusalem, which is your connection to God, and you need your Hebron, which is the connection to the forefathers and mothers. Now, there used to be a way to get down to the catacombs below, and it was probably sealed off and from time to time opened up, just like the Holy of Holies was from time to time opened up. And that's the way to understand it, that basically you go to the temple, but not every time do you go to the Holy of Holies. So too, in Hebron, you came to the temple, which is this monumental site, and from time to time they probably opened it for visitation, the tombs below.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jump in now. Go ahead. Don't be embarrassed.
How difficult is it to go to Hebron? I mean, I've been to Israel a number of times and never have been there.
Right.
And I've been on a number of tours that never took us there. So what is access like these days?
All right. The truth is that access is just very, very easy, truthfully. There's a bus that leaves from the central bus station in Jerusalem every hour. Every single hour. You could just get on the bus and it takes 1 hour, and it takes you right to the tombs of the fathers and mothers. Tour buses have not been going there in the past because people were afraid and other, or political reasons, but more and more people are coming there. It's now it's the most visited touristic site in Judea and Samaria today, with over 1 million visitors a year, and there's 4 million visitors to Israel. So it's not really 1 in 4 because we also have a lot of Jews that come there recurrently, but there are Muslims, there are Jews, there are Christians, there are all kinds of folks that come, and really it's in the hundreds of thousands of visitors every single year. And if you want to go next time you're in Israel, which you really should, because it's something to do in your life type of thing, is to come to the tomb of the fathers and mothers, in my opinion, then please, here's the best way to visit us. I'm putting this on the screen. Just go to hebronfund.org, hebronfund.org. That's the American kind of wing of fundraising for Hebron, but it's also a lot of information there. You'll find a lot of articles, a lot of info, but also we have our fabulous English language weekly tours. Now, if this COVID thing ever goes away, we can get back to it. In the meantime, tourism is like at 5% at the Tomb of the Fathers and Mothers, basically all Israeli. But when this time is over, then you will be able to join our tour that starts every Wednesday, but in peak season even more, from the David Citadel Hotel. We take you there. We take you to the Tomb of Rachel. We take you to Hebron. We tour you through the neighborhoods, and then we bring you back at 4:00 in the afternoon. It's a wonderful day in Judea. And of course, there are today private tour guides that will take you, and you can always connect with me. I'm easy to reach at Yishai Fleisher on Twitter, on Facebook at Yishai Fleisher, etc., or Yishai Fleisher at Gmail, Yishai at Hebron.com. And really, if you can't figure out how to reach me, there's something wrong with you, because I'm just so easy to reach, either through Facebook or Twitter or whatever, etc. So it's easy enough, and we will bring you to Hebron. And the reason I showed you all these pictures of people, you know what? I'm gonna go off script for a second, and just for a second, I just want to show you something that happened this week. Let me just fly up all my Google pictures here. This was today. Here's me and my mom today. I was involved in an event today on the, you'll see it on Thursday with the sovereignty movement. Not important right now. But here's a family that came this week. They happen to be an American family that has not made Aliyah. They are just, they came in for COVID. They got through a few weeks of quarantine, and now they're touring. And so they toured with me, this fabulous family named Be'eri, and they reached out to me, and we organized a fabulous tour for them, and we had a lot of fun. So there's definitely ways to get there. Next time you go on an organized tour, you basically have to say to the tour, I want to get to Hebron. And in general, today we really ask that people demand that they get to the biblical heartland. If it's Shiloh, which has a fabulous movie and fabulous wine presses, or Hebron, or Bethel, and you just have to kind of demand of these tourists, saying like, hey, like, we've seen Tel Aviv and Eilat and Masada, and it's great, but show us the biblical heartland. We want to connect with the stories that started it all, and with really the heartland of Israel.
I have a question.
What's the name of the other guides?
Hello?
David.
You see what I mean?
Who?
Every time I start talking to him.
No, don't worry. One second, you'll see. Hold on. Who is this lady that's speaking right now?
Esther.
Go ahead, Esther. Go ahead.
Esther.
Yes, you mentioned Hushim ben Dan. Who is he?
He's the Hushim is the son of Dan, one of the 12 tribes, and he was the one that slew, according to some Midrashim, that slew Esav as he stood blocking the burial of Jacob. Okay, and you could look it up on the internet. Hushim, son of Dan. Okay, Esther.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Joel, what were you saying?
I want to know the name of that other tour guide, David.
David Wilder. David Wilder doesn't do it anymore. He's since retired, but there are many wonderful, wonderful tour guides today, and I'm happy to connect everybody to them.
Many years ago, he was an excellent spokesperson.
Go ahead, Joel. Go ahead.
A few questions.
One second. Let my friend Joel finish. He's my good old friend. He deserves my attention. Go ahead, Joel. What were you saying?
Sure.
Many years ago, I remember being on tour with him. It was like in '98 or something like that.
You bet. You bet. He was a great man. He is a great man. He's a good friend, and I am with my small feet trying to fill his big shoes. Yes, who was speaking before after you?
Yishai, that's me. What I was trying to say that you have a few questions written down on chat, so if you will.
Oh boy, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start from the end here. Where are you from? I am originally from Haifa, Israel, but I lived in Wayne, New Jersey, then back in Israel for the Army and Yeshiva, then Manhattan, and I lived there to the age of 21. Then I came back here to Israel after getting married in Hebron. I came back to live here about when I was 27. At 27, I came back. I went back and forth a few times in my life. Finally, I came back here. And how did I get passionate about Hebron? I'm really passionate about Israel, frankly. Just very passionate about Israel. I wake up every single day feeling extremely excited by this project called Israel. And the front line, in my opinion, is asserting Jewish rights in Judea and Samaria. And there are other frontiers, but I'm involved in this frontier. Maybe I'm not involved in economic development in some other city. I am involved in economic development, touristic development, and narrative development of a teaching narrative of Hebron. That's my job, but I'm involved in other ways. And I have a weekly podcast, which you can find by just typing in the Yishai Fleisher show. It's called the Israel Podcast. And it's something that I do weekly. And what can I tell you? Israel is my passion. And I think it's the most exciting project of the Jewish people in 2,000 years. Is there more exciting of a project than the rebuilding of a Jewish state in the land of Israel? It's a dream come true. It's an ancient dream, and it's coming true. And we're building a country here together with all of our friends, holding on across the Atlantic and doing something amazing here. So it's a big zchut. What else? Somebody says, I was asking if Shlomo, if Mushnik, or I don't know who Shlomo Mushkin is, but I know who Mushnik is. And that's for us Russian speakers. Mushnik does a great job of Russian tours. I even do some Russian tours myself. And Yuri asks about Ben Zion Tavger. Ben Zion Tavger was a physicist that came in the 70s to Hebron, to Kiryat Arba in Hebron, and he was like a straight physicist, but with incredible, unbelievable tenacity. He was arrested many times for defying orders of going down to Hebron and digging and finding. He found the remnants of the Avraham Avinu synagogue. He found the remnants of the Jewish cemetery, the ancient Jewish cemetery, and this Russian Jew with incredible tenacity coming from the Soviet Union, and I guess being ready to, if he was ready to face the Soviet Union, was ready to face also the Israeli government and the hurdles that it put in front of him. And he has got a tremendous merit, Yuri. He's got tremendous merit in digging up, finding, and being one of the pioneers of resuscitating life in Jewish Hebron. And I myself am a Russian speaker. come from a Russian background. Parents are Russian. And so, Ben Sion Tavger is really one of the heroes of Hebron. But there are many others, including to this very day, incredibly passionate and strong people that stand in this tough place and keep it open for the rest of us. What else?
There is a question about, is there a representative tomb of Rebecca at the tomb of Patriarch Simat?
Yes, of course there is. Rebecca. The only one that we don't have is Rachel, because she's not buried in Hebron. She's buried in the tomb of Rachel in Bethlehem, in Beit Lechem, close to me here. But of course we have Rebecca. Rebecca's like my favorite biblical character. I think I showed you a picture of me standing next to her. From Pamela, good friend of mine, and with me in a lot of stuff that I do. She says, "Beautiful Yishai, I listen to all your podcasts from here in Tel Aviv." That's what I think TA stands for, unless you're some kind of other TA, but I'm guessing Tel Aviv, which are amazing. You must give your information to everyone so people can sign up to your broadcasts. Also, how do people sign up for tours to Hebron with you? Someday people will be able to come back here. Amen. So thank you very much, Pamela. Very nice of you.
You
Indeed.
answered most of it, so just repeat.
That's right.
Repeat about the podcasts, because his podcasts are amazing. So you have to listen to them.
Thank you very much, Pamela. You're absolutely right that we try really hard to make good podcasts for everybody. And really, I don't know if you follow Facebook or you follow Twitter, or I don't know what you guys are doing. But I put out if you type in Yishai Fleisher podcast into Google today, boom, it'll just give it to you in any of the number of the ways that you like to listen to podcasts. I love by the way, just for older folks, podcasts is just radio through the computer. That's all it is. Okay. It's just like, it's just radio, but instead of being broadcast on radio, it gets put up as a file. You can just download it and listen to it. I'm sure you're already doing that. You could even and almost on any kind of audio thing that you're listening to, you can find my show. It's really easy. And of course I put it up on my social media, which is at Yishai Fleisher on Twitter. YishaiFleisher.com has all of my articles, videos, latest shows. And of course, if you feel like donating, always helpful. Thank you so much. And if you feel like helping build, first thing, find out more about Hebron and what we're doing there and how we're holding on to it. And all the questions, because there's many other questions that we didn't get a chance to discuss today. Many political questions, I'm sure, that are important. There's many, and what we had during this administration. What we'll have in the next administration. All this kind of stuff is also part of the story. Because it sits on such a fault line. It's always in the news. And we're also building new apartments, trying very hard to build new apartments. You can learn more about that at hebronfund.org or on Facebook, facebook.com/Hebron Official. It's just that simple. And it's really easy to connect with me. And I just, where are we? Wait, I was not sharing that? I thought I was sharing a screen, but I was not. Wait, so let me share that screen. So tricky. Here we go. Share screen. This is the info, and I'm happy to connect with you anytime. With regard to tours with me, happen a little bit more rarely. There are other tour guides that usually do the work of touring, but I come on tour sometimes. I usually deal with politicians and VIP folks, but for you, reach out and we'll see if we could make something happen. But there are fabulous tour guides that really have a passion for the land and explain it very well. So there's a way to connect to them as well. So it's all open for you, and the most important thing is that you guys are obviously people who love the land of Israel, the state of Israel, the people of Israel. You wouldn't be on this Zoom right now if you didn't care. You come and volunteer in the Israeli army, some of you, most of you, which is just awesome. We love seeing you. We hope to see you again soon. I always urge you to, take a vacation here, buy a house here, or even buy a burial plot here. All those are good. If not in life, then in death. The most important thing is to just be connected because we're living in a great time, a time of the resurrection of the Jewish people, the re-embodiment of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. I think the greatest project of our peoplehood in 2,000 years. God is doing something great. Christian folks will always say God is doing great things with you, and they're right. And we should be really thankful to that our bodies and our souls are walking in this time when the state of Israel is alive. So thank you very much, everybody. Great being with you.
Thank you. Excellent presentation.
Thank you very much. Very enjoyable.
God bless you, everybody. Shalom and Chag Chanukah Sameach.
Chag Chanukah Sameach. Thank you very, very much.
We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon again. Smachot. God bless you. Neshikot. Love from the land of Israel.
Thank you.
Kol Tuv. Chag
Julia,
Sameach.
if you want to mention
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So the Hebron tour is over, and I really appreciated the time Yishai spent with us, and I hope you enjoyed it. Well, I'm pretty sure you enjoyed it. I could see that. So that was great. This is a very different, very difficult, very complicated, enormously complicated, way more complicated than you could possibly see and understand on this short presentation. So, you are welcome back.